Welcome back to AR Sales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am A.R.T. and today I am joined by Nate McWilliams, film producer, film director, one half of the Fatman and Baldy production group, director of a new movie that just came out September 11th. He's going to talk to us a little bit about it. Year in the making, hell excited to talk to him, and very first film producer in the podcast. So Nate, without further ado.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. First film, you're branching out. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk and just talk about the projects.
Now, before we hit record, we were talking a little bit about the project, but before we delve into that, what got your start into film? I love film, but that's the reason I got into writing, because I just couldn't understand how to actually group up into like make a production group. It was like, all right, well, I can just write a book in my room.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do the same thing sometimes when it's an idea where it's, budget wise, I'm like, there's no way anybody's going to take a shot and sell this, huge like Game of Thrones story. So once in a while, I've never gone and finished a book, but to get to your question, weirdly enough, I started off doing engineering because I knew I wanted to do something kind of creative. And when you read what engineering is in the textbook, it sounds like creative. You get to go outside and stuff. Quickly realized that was not going to happen.
After graduation or during school?
No, in my first year of community college, okay. I quickly realized that was not going to happen. If you know what I mean. The grades were not matching up to my ideas. So
fully feel you.
I joined my college radio station. I started doing a sports talk, and it was a little bit of a long path. I got to Temple. I started directing and producing kind of the Sports Center show at Temple University. So that was my, dive into the video side, and kind of with those skills and everything, I had already started doing, just creative writing in whatever form. And I had taken some script writing classes. So I kind of, even before the pandemic started, but really when the pandemic started, that was what launched me into it. Weirdly enough, you'd think you want to not be around people, but I started getting together with my partner now, who is the other half of Baldy and the Fatman productions, and we wrote a couple little things, and we're like, let's write something we can film like all the way through. And we wrote this script. It was 80 pages long. We argued about how much we could cut it down to make it manageable. We got it down to about 60 pages, which it's a page a minute, and it's kind of been like, once we started that whole process, it's been no doubt in my mind it's what I want to do. So I definitely fell in love with that when I got going.
Man, you must have like some emotional thing, just a little bit more mature than me, because I didn't get that feeling until 3 years after graduating engineering school, and I was doing engineering work. Oh. And I was like, yeah, you know what? This is not how they talked about in the textbook. I'm thinking that Tony Stark shit, that I'm going to be able to go and jazz out with a group of other people that are like-minded. No, you're eating shit just like it's Office Space. You just have like a title for whatever reason.
Yeah, no. In my head, it was like 3 days in an office doing, the rough part of it,
and then working with your hands.
And then the other 2 days you're out on a construction crew. But no, in reality, you're just walking out there to make sure nobody's making a mistake. I'm sure everybody on a construction team is not happy to see the engineer walk up.
100%. You're the asshole every time. Yeah. You're always younger. And like they don't even want to talk to you. You're over there, it's like, nah, I smoke weed too. I'm a degenerate. It's like, they're like, no, you're a liar.
Yeah. They're like, right. You're just going to tell me everything I did wrong and need to do again. So I don't know that and the math classes were just not happening. So between those two things, I decided to make a change. I'm sure my parents were thrilled with the decision to go from engineering to media production. But I definitely think I found my niche.
That's the whole point, right? Like why like drudge on something that you don't like doing when you already found that we like doing? It's same thing that the moment I like started actually writing creatively and not for like term papers or like technical writing, that's when I knew I found my shit. So how did that transition into meeting your partner Tyler, Fatman, and the whole saga of the production team? How did that go on? Was it a person that you met through the film school in Temple, or was it that you already knew him previously and you just kind of vibed already?
I went to high school with Tyler, and we were always like pretty good friends, but he went to school for journalism, but was also always kind of like I actually I didn't go to film school. I went to like media school, just a general media production school. So we were both kind of adjacent to it. And we had always talked about getting together to write something, but I didn't graduate until the spring. He didn't graduate. He graduated a year prior. So we'd always gotten together and like floated some ideas, but when the pandemic kind of hit, we were like, what else are we doing? And I give him so much credit because I was a college student with the pandemic being, I didn't have that much work, and he works 40 hours at like a cabinetry company, and he came over 2 nights a week for damn near a year, half the time down to Temple, and like we just put in the work. We really did. We really grinded. We had that basis to work well together because we'd been friends for a while, but we really synced up with our especially when we're writing comedy stuff. We really synced up with our minds, and we just have a good rapport as far as taking each other's ideas, shooting down the ones that need to be shot down, and allowing, even if you're not thrilled with an idea, get the give and take. I think has been a real good sign that we're definitely good partners.
Now, what you just said brings up a lot of questions, right? You talked about comedy. How do you feel about comedy? What do you think makes good comedy? What do you think are some of the best examples of comedy that you can think of? Do you immediately go old school? Do you think new school? Like, how do you think about it?
I mean, I really do love everything, but for some reason I've always been, I know I love everything is pretty awful answer, but for some reason I've always been drawn to like the Mel Brooks, like borderline slapstick, like Spaceballs, all that stuff. I mean, even Clue, as which is definitely a definitive inspiration for the movie that we put together. It's for some reason, it's just kind of like when I would watch something and I was like, how did this get made? For whatever reason in my head, that was like, you know what I mean? Like that was just something that clicked with me, is like, I don't know if it was, oh, I could do this, or this is how my brain works, but something about those old slapstick comedies, and there's good examples of them now. It's definitely more toned down, and it'll be like one character out of the movie has that attitude, but it's, I definitely I hate to use the word stupid comedy because it's not stupid. It's so well done, but the slapstick's the best way to do it. And of course I love, the Seth Rogen movies and all that stuff, Superbad and Will Ferrell, Step Brothers. Will Ferrell movies could probably be grouped into that slapstick.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just the out there. You're kind of like, what is happening and I love, like, when it comes to more serious stuff, I love like the Coen brothers, because you kind of watch those movies and you're like, what is, like, why you finish the movie and you're like, why is this character in this movie? That made no sense. And you just spend time thinking about it, which I think if you spend a bunch of time thinking about a movie, even if you didn't enjoy the watch the first time, I think that's generally at least a nod to the artist, if not a good sign.
No, I mean, I 100% agree with you. And I'm blanking on the director's name that also does a really good job with that type of what is going on humor. It's like the director that made the Moonlight Hotel, I believe.
Moonrise Kingdom, Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Another great example of that type of
absolutely
like, what is going on. But for whatever reason, I think that's a great like idea to bring up, because you watch the movie and you're thinking to yourself, what is going on? You're talking to your friends, what is going on? You finish the movie, what is going on? But you never turn the movie off or even pause it. You're 100% enthralled in that story and you're enjoying it. You're entertained.
Yeah, no, and I think exactly, like if you're confused but intrigued, like that's exactly what, I mean, there's so many different genres. That's not always, sometimes you want to be enthralled. Sometimes you want to be, brought to tears or just smiling. But for me, the movies that like really get me are the ones where you're very confused but you can't stop watching. It's just and I think that's like a big reason people like the crime stuff, because there's a twist coming. But even nowadays, some people go the extra mile with that, and there isn't a twist or something like that. I just like that always keeps you guessing. You don't know what's going on, but it's always interesting.
Dude, Where's My Car comes to mind immediately. It's like that, Like, what is going on? Like, the movie starts
Yeah,
off as simple, "Where's my car?" And then there's aliens, there's a cult.
yeah,
It goes so left field. It is amazing.
yeah. No, that's a movie that not enough people have seen. I feel like you have to see it before you're like 25, but it's definitely worth the watch. Or yeah, that's an out there one. That's funny.
Now, talking about comedy, uh, this is more just for me, honestly. Like, just curious. I always ask people that are
Absolutely.
into comedy about it. How do you feel about the current culture and I guess political climate and how that's affecting comedy?
I am one who does not think it's as big as a problem as others. I think, of course, there are, um, people jumping to conclusions, and I'm assuming you're talking about, the cancel culture and all that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
definitely.
And I think there, certainly is a degree of that on social media, and other things, but I feel like people are too focused on their world in social media to see that it's not nearly as big of a problem, um, as they seem to think it is. That's just been my experience, at least. And there are shows that are, Always Sunny in Philadelphia is on its 13th season. I mean, that show does some of the most horrifically offensive episodes, but
Yep.
it's done well. And nobody thinks that they're in bad taste. It's funny. The characters are supposed to be awful people. And I just think if anything's done well and with good intentions, that it can get away with it. I think when things are done lazily, um, then I don't think it being canceled, quote unquote, is a bad thing sometimes, because that is when people fall into like, racial stereotypes and gender stereotypes, because they're just being lazy and they're relying on, people's predetermined, they're not building a character, they're just basing it off what people think a 20-year-old black guy is, you know what I mean? Or, a gay guy is. They're not like, it's just they're just grabbing at like headlines almost. I think when it's done well, then really, you can get the Always Sunny in Philadelphia is the prime example, I think, that should be retorted for everybody. I mean, and there's plenty of shows like it, especially with the streaming and everything nowadays. Like, there's so many out there shows that you don't have to rely on NBC, ABC, CBS. Like, they don't have the control at like where they have to bow to the masses. Like these other like, not that I mean, Disney owns Hulu, but there's so much on Hulu that they can take a shot on weird things, and you know most you just don't have to watch it. It's not like people are going to stumble upon it like if they just finished watching the news and now it's on. It's like, just don't watch it unless it's absolutely like, I get there are heinous things put out that should be taken off, whether it should be taken off the internet or just, branded horrible is a different,
Downvoted to
level.
death. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that there are certainly things that should be, but I just don't see it as a huge problem. But I don't know. That's just my, inexperienced opinion.
No, I feel like it was pretty experienced because it's your experience. I
Yeah.
only talk about mine because, well, I'll watch like a show like The Office, and a certain thing will pop up, and the first thing that my friend says is like, "Oh, they can't do that anymore," and like, I almost like kind of want to agree. It's like if they did for whatever reboot it and tried that shit, I feel like it would just wouldn't fly. I saw Reno 911. They did like a reboot that they had like little almost like TikTok versions of it,
Yeah.
and even that just didn't seem as like I don't know, as edgy as like the original Reno, which was an outrageous show, phenomenal show.
Yeah, that's absolutely one of my favorites. I mean, that is an insane. I didn't catch that show until about 2 years ago either. I never watched it, and it was just like,
Same.
it was just incredible. It's so out there. And I don't know, all the show examples I gave you are long running shows, so maybe I am off base, and getting one sold or picked up right now is really hard. But I think there's always going to be an exception, and when you see a great example of a really offensive um, piece of comedy, and I think most of the time, as I said, when it's done well, it's not making fun of the people it's making fun of in the show. It's making like the group of people that the characters in the show are making fun of. It's making fun of the people that the characters are representing. So if
Yeah.
it's a bunch of people, I'll go back to Always Sunny because it's just a great example. It's not making fun of um, there's a weird episode where they're like following around an elderly black homeless person. It's not making fun of homeless people. It's making fun of the four main characters who are trash human beings, and they're like objectifying this homeless person. There's a gun episode where like two of them decide to go pro gun, two of them decide to go anti-gun. It's not making fun of like gun advocacy and stuff. It's making fun of the way that the four people are just so polarized and not listening to anybody. So when it's done well, it's very rarely making fun of a marginalized group. It's generally making fun of the mass, and a lot of people won't get that, obviously, because they just get red in the face before they realize it. But
Yeah.
I think I don't know. We'll see how it goes in the next couple of years. I just find it hard to believe that sort of thing will really fall off. I think there'll be a couple that pop up every so often that are just like, what is happening? And I also don't think, when it comes to a show like Reno 911, as amazing as I think that show is, they certainly are playing off stereotypes a little lazily with, Lieutenant Dangle being the flamboyant in short shorts gay guy. So maybe that's not the greatest,
the guy that's always in the roller skates. I can't remember his name right now.
What'd you say?
He's always in roller skates.
Yeah. That's Lieutenant Dangle, right? I think.
No, he's the guy that's always in the Adam Sandler movies.
It's Nick Schwartzen, yeah.
Yeah, him.
So like things like that, maybe it's best if they don't continue in that explicit sense, or if they're not, shown as very, dim-witted characters who are, just in the worst light they could be. It's hilarious, but I don't think it's the worst thing if something like that was at least adjusted. I mean, that shows an example of a skit show. It's ridiculous. There's not really much story or plot to it. So I'm certainly not criticizing. It's legitimately one of the funniest shows in the last 15 years, but or 20 years, I guess. But that's something that I do think, like, it's not the worst thing if we evolve past some of the stuff.
And you know what? You're not lying, and I think you just swayed my opinion a little bit on your side. Because now that I think about it, when you watch like older comedy movies, you watch like National Lampoon, which are hilarious, but there are certain jokes in there they'll just have point to the camera to an old lady flipping a finger, which was funny then because it's like, oh, why would an old lady flip a finger? But like that's pretty lazy. Or they would have like a stereotypical black guy doing like just some crazy shit, like too much on the and it was funny just because like I don't even know what. I don't know, like it was just funnier back then. Now we kind of just like it's like make a situation that's funny.
We're all more exposed to other cultures too. It's not like
that's what it is.
I think that's a big part of it. With online, you see everybody in all cultures. So when they are only portraying black people in a show as like drug dealers, like it's not like you're in your tiny little community anymore like you were 40 years ago. Like everybody has either friends or idols or heroes online that are of that culture, and it's not so it doesn't make sense as much even, you know what I mean? And it goes both ways. Obviously in the past it has very much gone against the minority groups and stuff, and there's certainly things nowadays with Dave Chappelle's white guy voice. Not that I'm complaining about it, it's hilarious, but like I'm not even sure what my point is there, but it's just like we all are intertwined more than ever now. And I think those lazy like stereotypes don't, they shouldn't, they don't play as well, whether it be because it's not funny, because people don't, appreciate that type of humor, because they don't, I think it all comes down to it not being true. So when it's not true, it's not as funny anymore. It's offensive. And we know better now. So I don't know. I just think all of those things wrapped into one. I think when it's done well, it's done amazingly. I always go back to keep going back to Always Sunny. they do the most horrible things, but they're making fun of the four main characters who are, you know, middle-aged white people. And they're not making fun of middle-aged white people. I mean, I'm from
They're
Philadelphia.
making fun of those four middle-aged white
They're
people.
making fun of like
they're idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that is a group of people, and there's that group of people in every community, you know, the ignorant four people that never, I live in Philadelphia, in South Philadelphia. There, in every part of Philadelphia, there are communities that never leave that area. And they're doing their version of South Philadelphia, which, you know, there are plenty of people like that. And because they don't get out, that's how they see the world. And in the show, they never leave South Philadelphia. One guy, Charlie, leaves South Philadelphia twice throughout the show. And other than that, he talks about repeatedly the fact that he's never left Philadelphia, his character, ever in his entire life. So that they're, you know, they're kind of shedding light on those people that would still find those older things funny, I think, because they're so, you know, enclosed in their own bubble, which can be a problem too when you're online and stuff. But I think at least when you're online, you're exposed to other cultures, maybe not other opinions, but you're still exposed to other cultures and just the world, whether you know, want to or not. You can trim some of it out online, but you're always gonna, you know, bump into people, whether it be in the comments section or even if you try to eliminate it all from your timeline.
Now, how did you merge all these ideas of comedy into Thief Among Us? How did you start putting this together into a screenplay?
So literally, I'm a big whiteboard guy. I have whiteboards all in I have an entire wall in my bedroom at home that is floor to ceiling whiteboard. And so me and Tyler, yeah, I'm a big like ADD person. So for me to keep everything in my brain straight, I need it to be like smacked in front of my face.
Yeah.
And so me and Tyler sat down and we're brainstorming like, all right, what are experiences? Because we knew with the pandemic and everything, our actor pool, our crew pool, we're going to be people our age with our similar experiences. So we just started writing down things that happened to, you know, 20 to 25-year-olds. And once we decided we kind of wanted to do a comedy, we landed on, and the pandemic was a big reason we picked what we did, because we wanted to do something that we didn't have to get permission to shoot anywhere. We could cast everyone we needed in the demographics we needed. Although I will say everyone in the movie is white, which not that I was intentionally, you know, trying to avoid that, but, you know, we could have done a better job adding demographics to that just for, you know, I mean, even just for marketing purposes. As shallow as that sounds, you know, it's just better in every dimension. But
you open up any college brochure, what's on the front?
Yeah, of course.
It's fair. Yeah. You shouldn't feel bad for it. Yeah.
No, yeah. And obviously marketing purpose is not the sole reason, but we fell back onto, you know, we have a really great group of friends, a really tight-knit group of friends. So we're like, all right, well, let's do a college story in an apartment. I love Clue, and so does he. Those are some of his favorite movies. Actually, I showed him Clue when we were getting started. But Murder on the Orient Express is a murder mystery that takes place entirely on a train ride. There's a couple. I mean, if you've seen Knives Out, which came out, that doesn't take place entirely in one location, but 90% of the movie takes place in the house where the murder happened. And that was probably the biggest influence, I would say. But
source code kind of in a way, because it doesn't really get out of the train either.
Yeah. No, this isn't a murder mystery, but Snowpiercer. That's another train movie. But yeah, so we were like, all right, let's do that. Let's follow the Clue model. It all happens in one place. We had my college apartment for another year, so we were like, we'll do it there. I had 2 roommates. And Tyler was happy to make the trek down. It's about 40 minutes from where we live at home. So he would come down every Friday. We'd work Friday night, Saturday during the day, and Sunday when there wasn't football. So we, you know, we started putting it together, and we kind of we really were very free form. We didn't like plot out the story ahead of time, which I'm realizing as I write more by myself. It's easier for me to do that with another person, because with the needing the ideas in front of me, it's easier for me to bounce ideas and not have a coherent layout ahead of time. But when I'm in my own head, I definitely need more of an outline. But we really just started writing, and we wrote it simple. You've seen it, correct? You said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Thief Among Us on YouTube, check it out. But we wrote it, there's the night before scene, the crime scene, interviews are all at once, which, is not how we would have loved to do it. We would have loved, there's a bunch of interviews of all the characters that go on, spliced together. And, ideally we would have liked to split those up with some more action between, but because of the limitations of, having two people doing everything and the pandemic. So and then, the climax and the ending. So we kind of just wrote, as we went. And then when we got to the end, as we figured out, like we literally didn't decide who we wanted to be guilty until we got to the end. And then we went back and added all like the little kernels, which I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's a way you're supposed to do it, but that was how we did it. And I think it worked out pretty well based on, reception. I think people were actually, thinking about who did it as they watched. So, and then the jokes were just so natural though. Like, I mean, some of them are really long-winded, and some of them were cut out, and some of them are stupid one-liners. But as I said, that's kind of my, forte. And it was just very natural. I think me and Tyler have very similar senses of humor, and it worked out. There wasn't too much we had to argue about joke-wise. I think there wasn't too much that crossed the line. The only thing that was, especially over the top was a little bit of language, as far as like offensive, as we were just talking about. There's a little bit of language, and it's some pretty crude, like sexual references, but nothing that I don't think, we made one joke about Aunt Jemima getting canceled.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the raciest thing in the movie, other than the sex references and cursing. So we didn't have too much of a worry about that. But that being said, we weren't really working on a topic where, it was a pretty innocent topic. If it was, a murder mystery set in somewhere wrapped up with, a more intricate story that was more, diverse, not even in the characters, but in locations and stuff, we really didn't have too much of an opportunity where throwing a insensitive joke in there would have made much sense. So it honestly wasn't really anything that we ever thought of. We had one woman in the film, Tegan Gallagher. She played Tiara. We were conscious, but I don't think ever felt like we needed to correct ourselves as far as making sure we didn't put her in any uncomfortable situations. Because nobody really in the film was an actor. These were all our friends. So we didn't, we were conscious to make sure that we didn't put her in a situation that would have been weird. But I don't think that was ever something we had to, go back and correct either.
My first thing that popped into my head is, who came up with the line, "You got to retox the detox"? Was that Baldy or Fatman?
That was neither. That was an ad lib by Luke, the actor.
Not
that one
bad.
Yeah, that one was actually, you know what happened was we filmed that scene, and then 3 hours later, like when we were done for the night, because everyone would just stay at the apartment, we were done for the night, and he was like, "Oh, that's what I wanted to do." So the next weekend we came back and we just reshot the reverse shot of it from Tyler's perspective over the toilet. That was amazing. Yeah, that with the clink of the glasses too, it was perfect. Yeah. Yeah, no, that was
man, there's another line, there's a couple other lines I want to ask you about too, but like, knowing that's an ad lib now, what we talked about before, like I just didn't elaborate because I wanted to keep you talking, but that's when I knew I wanted to get into writing or like film shit. Like that's when I knew, because you would watch TV and you're thinking about shit that like, people thinking about the plot. You're over here, it's like, I wonder how they got the camera angle. Like is that CG? Like how they figure that one out. You're doing like the mathematics of like how they actually figured it and did that scene, right? So from like a director writer standpoint, ad libbing is one of the most phenomenal things ever, right? Because you make a baby and then someone put shoes on that baby. That's not even in your head. It's just like, I don't know, like how does that feeling of someone taking something you did and just like even better?
It's 90% of the time it's incredible. 10% of the time it's a pain in the ass. But I think we were really lucky. I mean, I have a talented ass group of friends that were really on top of the amount of work they put in. They were funny, and they gave the characters a life of their own. Going from actor to actor, I think there was definitely a varying level of, and with the interviews, it was tough for ad-libbing because there was so much dialogue at one time, and we were trying to film it as simple as possible. But anytime somebody brought anything to the table, we were, happy to listen to it and happy to give it a try. And it was usually hilarious. You're when you take on a role as an actor, I feel like, and I honestly, a lot of the stuff that when me and Tyler, our characters, Anderson and Danny, when we're on screen, just the two of us at the beginning, when the item in question goes missing, and then there's a scene where I drag him out into the hallway to give him a pep talk. A lot of that was ad-libs, and just from that experience, I could tell you what, like, writing it is one thing, but when you've like kind of been playing the character for a little bit, and it's wormed its way into your head, you just kind of start to you feel how the character might react, and for anybody to be able to do that, I think good things are going to come from that, certainly.
Fuck, that's phenomenal, man. Another one that comes to mind is what was it? It's somebody says that he doesn't know what to do on a one-on-one conversation, and he goes like, oh, like this guy, anytime he talks to Tiara, and they both just like take a drink. Perfect type of situations like that.
We were trying to lay all the groundwork for the characters as quick as we can in those opening scenes, and that was a good one. It was quick. It was funny. And we had some good music done by a couple of guys, and we found some free music, which I really think added to everything. Really stitched it together, especially those opening scenes were the first things we shot. So from our perspective, looking back, they were a bit rough, but I think there's definitely some good stuff in there. I mean, you've just listed 2 jokes from there, so it's much appreciated.
Well, yeah, the original, there's actually original music in there.
Some of it was that first 7 minutes, the whole opening is all original music from a friend of Tyler's, friend of mine too now. He's a beat maker. I think he occasionally raps. His name's O Marvelous, which I love so much, that name. And then we had a couple guys that we knew from high school and college send us some beats, and we tried to fit them in. We had one other track by Marvelous in the project. So, and then there was a lot of like, freesoundlibrary.com and stuff like that, but that was more like the orchestral music. Excuse me, man. I got a cold. Give me 1 second.
Oh my God, COVID. Cancel.
No, I'm tested and everything. I got the cold all winter long. It's no fun. But it's incredible how much, even when I did a news show at Temple, it's incredible how much just a light track of music under something makes it go from, are people really going to watch this for 2 minutes for like a segment, to, oh wow, this looks so professional. This, you won't even realize it without hearing it without the music. But music is something that is just so, and me and Tyler are both huge music heads, and I think it's just something that ties things together. Anything. I mean, you occasionally stumble upon even like a podcast that does like a light score, and I think that can just, for the right topic, that sort of thing can really just take a project. I don't know how to make music, so I hesitate to say with not too much work, it can take a project to the next level, but with a little bit of investment, that's something that can really, bounce your thing to the next level.
I had an entire podcast about that, like how significant, really? How significant like soundtracks are to like visual media. Like I was talking about, not even in the sense that you're talking about as in like score, but just think about TV shows, right? The intro for Breaking Bad, That's like in your head. The moment you hear it, you're like, ready.
Yeah.
Same thing with a
No.
lot of, Game of Thrones comes to mind. Casa de
Narcos is
Papel.
one. You ever watch Narcos?
I sing that to my girl any chance I get. I can't lie to you.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. It's especially with a show like that where it has that, it's for an American audience, but it's a very foreign vibe, and it really makes you feel like, embedded in that culture as much as you can be from, a television show.
Yeah.
It adds so much. It's something that is, and it's certainly something, other than the greatest of examples, like I mean, I would say Narcos. There's a show, Killing Eve, that I love, that has just such a weird new age kind of music. That's probably a horrible term to describe the music, but
avant-garde.
Yeah, let's go with that. That sounds better. And you get those great examples, but even the ones that are more subtle, it's just so important. It puts you in a so much more like open state to getting the viewer in the right state of mind, or listener, or whatever it may be.
My God. No, I mean, like, and what's even better is when somehow the lyrics just like tune in to like what's happening as well. Like you mentioned, Narcos is great. The translation of what he's saying is the craziest thing. It's literally saying like, I am the fire that gives you goosebumps. Like, I am the water in the ocean. It's saying like he's like God basically. And it's like, talking about Pablo, which at the time in the representation of the show, that's what's going on in Colombia. And then in Catching Fire, like one of those Hunger Games things, they have like that, are you, whatever scene that she does.
Yeah.
That song and that scene is insane. I don't even like that type of music, but like I get goosebumps when I hear that shit.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I also love the music videos that like Tierra Whack, the rapper. She's a Philadelphia rapper, and
her last name is Whack.
Yeah, it's actually the name that the character of the movie Tierra Franklin's based on. We pretty much named all the characters after music acts that we like. What? But she has a 10-track, 15-minute album, real short. And she made like a short film where it's like a 10-part short film music video. And it's really cool. And I love things like that. It's happening more and more where artists are taking, more of a literal, or maybe not literal isn't the word, but more of a full narrative in their videos and trying to tell a story that at least runs parallel. Not that that hasn't always been the case, but I feel like as people branch out from, in today's day and age, you can be 4 different types of creative with nobody telling you you're not a real filmmaker because you're a rapper. There's tons of great ones, and or you can't direct music videos and films. Those are all things that like you borderline have to do to be successful nowadays. So I think it's really cool to see the merge of like film and music in music videos, because they're becoming so to another level where, it really is a film in itself with, its own soundtrack.
Childish Gambino did that actually too. His was a lot more subtle. Yeah, it was like maybe a 30-second scene in each video that he did, but he actually did it pretty effectively up until I think like the This Is America video. I think that was kind of like the end of it. But no, I absolutely love all those type of things. And bringing it back to Thief Among Us, which again, out on YouTube now, folks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
600 something views. I mean, I'm telling you,
it's worth a watch.
Yeah, it's worth a watch. It's honestly pretty, like, it's really funny.
Yeah.
Like, I watched it this morning, fully thinking I was gonna watch like a quick like half hour, like just as like I have like my morning smoke session. Knocked it, pieced it right there.
We're locking you in.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate if you get through all the way. I mean, I think we did a great job. I think it's well worth going all the way through. It was, as I said at the top, I think I said this, it might have been before recording, but funnest thing I've ever worked on. I did it with all my friends. I did it in the middle of a pandemic. Me and Tyler, my partner, did it. Tyler Whitey, by the way. We really did it from the ground up entirely by ourselves. So it was just an amazing experience. I learned so much. There's tons of things I look at and I'm like, there's just so many little things that we could have done better when it comes to like lighting and cinematography. But all in all, and those are such easy fixes. That's why it drives me crazy. But I know, the next project, that's never going to be a problem again. But given all the responsibilities, it was, I think we did an amazing job. And I'm probably downplaying it right now. It's an enjoyable watch. We brought a theater in to do a little premiere. We rented out a theater, had like 100 family and friends of all of the cast, and some old friends from high school and stuff. And it was well received. Certainly, people really enjoyed it. So give it a chance, at least watch the first 15 minutes. If you're not sold by then, watch another 10 minutes and then keep going. Yeah, absolutely.
And definitely make sure to, subscribe, give some love. I mean,
Yeah, we have Instagram is our main social media right now. It's at I gotta think this acronym out. BATFM Productions. So it's a little, the item that goes missing is a Michael Jordan jersey. So right now it's a Michael Jordan jersey logo as the profile picture. Instead of Jordan, it says Thief Among Us. So easy to find. Subscribe on YouTube, check out the Instagram. It's enjoyable. We'll have lots more to come as we get through this winter. We're already plotting on the next thing. So
hell yeah. Just Google Baldy and Fatman Productions and click on all relevant links. This is scientifically proven. I know this works. And just make sure to support it in every medium, every channel possible. I mean, fuck. Don't you want to see new shit out, folks, honestly?
By a couple people who just picked up a camera and did it, right? Isn't that what everybody wants to do?
Isn't that what you want to do? And I guess everything is creative like that, right? The first time you do like painting and you like look at it and you realize like, oh man, I just didn't know what paint strokes were. The first time you write a book and you're like, oh fuck, if only I did it that way. It's always the little things, but then stay unpacked. Now it's part of the
it's a learning process. Yeah, exactly. No, it's that's what our thought was the whole time. If nothing else comes of this, which
good God. Okay, my bad. I had a little bit of technical issues there for a second, but yeah, as far as everything goes, I mean, I was actually just about to bring that up about I did a little bit of my homework about the theater that you rented out. Had an open bar, had everyone out.
Oh yeah,
everyone loved it. How was that feeling of being able to like see? Did you have palpitations in the beginning?
I was gripping my girlfriend's arm the entire way through the movie, like holding on for dear life. I wasn't nervous as how it was like individual jokes and certain things that were like, I was stressed about landing. And I think the I wasn't too worried about how the general reception would be. I was confident, but when there's a joke every 20 seconds that you're nervous about, you're just as nervous as if you're terrified about the whole thing. So it was incredible. It was an incredible payoff. It was so appreciated for everyone that came out. We rented out the theater. It was a 130 person theater. And there could have been more than 15, 20 seats open. And everyone legitimately seemed to really enjoy it. We were getting good laughs all the way through. One or two groans, which were also appreciated. Now we know where to not go back to. But it was just it was such a payoff for a project that was really for us, we got to share that with so many people, and it was amazing. We got great feedback, good and bad. It was just it was a wonderful experience, to say the least. It was inspiring too. It makes us want to go out and do it again. Maybe have a bigger theater, more than one showing next time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how are you going to transition into your next film? One thing that I was really fascinated about with the whole idea is what you said, that it's almost like I've heard it referenced in like movie buff forums, like claustrophobic setting, where the entire setting of the movie happens in one location, right? You have phone booth, which is a similar kind of idea where the entire thing happens in the vicinity of a phone booth. We talked about all the Meridian, the Orient Express, and all the examples that we listed before. So how do you plan on going with that? Like, do you plan on, is that your bread and butter? Do you want to try another example of that type of
I
Scene setting.
I certainly don't think we'll go back to that right away. I think that's one of my favorite personal, so I definitely would be open to doing it again. I think that, you know, we have a couple ideas we're thinking about right now. Nothing concrete or either of us are too sold on. Um, I'm definitely very predisposed to the detective stories. That's certainly my bread and butter, but I also know that I don't want to, you know, there's quite an oversaturation on that. So I also have other ideas. So I try to, you know, push myself a little bit in a different direction. Um, I would say, as far as like a practical way that we're going to go next, is kind of writing a full episode or a full movie and um, kind of putting out samples of it and trying to, you know, maybe get some funding or something like that. More of a, you know, working on an isolated piece. And if we could get, you know, get some backing and move forward with that, or maybe start a little web series that we could try to, you know, recurring episodes that, you know, we kind of want to get to building a following. So I don't know, I can't give you any good answer on what the story will be. We have, you know, 8 to 10 ideas we're talking about right now, and more every time we come back to sit down. So we'll probably build that up a little bit more and then start cutting ideas down. Yeah, the idea is definitely to start, you know, doing a movie is amazing, and it was, you know, a super, you know, big task to, you know, conquer that. But because it's such a one and done thing, it's not the best way to, you know, really build a following on the internet, or you know, show off your skills to people in the industry, because it's tough to get somebody to watch somebody whose business is making movies and, you know, screening movies and reading movies. It's tough to get them to watch a full movie. So I think the next way we'll go is probably somewhere, you know, in the range of 10 to 15 minutes, whether that be recurring episodes, 10 to 15 minutes, or um, a solid 10 to our favorite 10 to 15 minutes of a full movie that we've written, and kind of try, you know, not that we have any context, but, you know, you never know until you start looking and shopping. I mean, there's tons of weird movies that have been made like that. I'm blanking on the name of the Whiplash. If you didn't know that movie, that movie got sold by the directors, somehow convinced J.K. Rowling to take an interest in them. They made a 15 to 20 minute J.K. Simmons, not J.K. Rowling. My girlfriend informs me that's a bad mistake. J.K. Simmons.
I was just thinking, it was like Harry Potter, Whiplash.
No, that's my
cool crossover.
Yeah, no. And then they took that out to studios in LA, and because J.K. Rowling, you know, loved the script so much, J.K. Simmons, thank God you're here. And I'm just going to avoid the name. You know, they were able to sell that based on his trust in them in the script, and taking a shot at being a part of this short film, and them having, you know, a ready to go script to sell. Jigsaw or Saw, the first Saw movie, is the same way. That was a student film that was supposed to be 10 minutes, 15 minutes long. And, you know, I think it was Universal heard that this guy was making this super crazy horror short and gave him like $3 million. Like, just, I mean, those are pipe dream stories. Those are, you know, 1 in a billion.
South Park, it's, you know,
yeah, it's not impossible. And it's worth, you know, at least, you know, it can't happen if you don't have the stuff ready to go, you know. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just having stuff ready to go and ready to, you know, if someone decides to, for some ungodly reason, take a flyer on us, that we're not sitting there twiddling our thumbs, and we have lots of stuff ready to go. That was a long-winded answer.
No, it's not, because honestly, it just you know, my like high whatever brain like translated that into like almost like philosophically, because like I feel like everything is like that. Like I feel like a universal sense, like you need to be ready to like really give more than you get, and I think that works even more so with like art. You know, you can't just like expect that you put like some, you know, you're 10 hours in and then expect someone to pay you for that 10 hours. I mean, you gotta do it as a passion project, a labor of love. And then if that talent and skill level rises with like that passion, then that's when people start looking at you. But I don't think you can go about it like, oh yeah, we're gonna bank out, this is gonna be the it. Like, you gotta love what you're doing, you know?
Yeah, the thing about, art as opposed to other industries is even once you get money to make what you want to make, it's such, first of all, there's such a, span of time between any return on investment from an investor or anything, as well as like, especially now with the amount of stuff that is out there, to even see a return on investment is such a long shot. You really have to find someone that you can earn their trust, and it's hard to do that unless you have the the merit. You've worked up the material and the quantity even to prove to somebody that you even are worth taking a shot on.
Yeah, I mean, like, it always fascinates me when like a certain director that you don't that like you like a lot, your favorite director, but that just doesn't make that many movies. He struggles to get a movie up, and like, a movie of his will be in production hell forever. I can't remember the guy that made The Man That Killed Don Quixote, which was one of my favorite low key movies ever. Like no one's ever heard of it, and it took that movie was made 11 years ago. It came out last year, just production hell. Michael Bay comes out, wants to make a movie, that's immediate because he's proven he can make billions.
The guy that made Francis Ford Coppola, who made The Godfather, for a long time could not get a movie made. He has like his one pet project movie that he's still never been able to get made, and he's beginning production to spend like, I mean, I'm sure he has enough money to Scrooge McDuck swim in it, but he's about to spend like $300 million of his own money because he's like, you know what, I'm getting old. Let's just make this movie. It's what I've wanted to do for so long.
That's
so
awesome.
And I think the script's even out there for that one, so you can judge yourself whether you'd take the flyer on the guy who directed The Godfather.
Man, that is phenomenal. M. Night Shyamalan does the same thing. He goes to for other companies for distribution, but he funds all his own movies too.
I think that's one of the most inspiring stories, especially him being from the same area as me. I'm not sure if you're around here, or if you're
Boston.
All right. So yeah, I mean, he films most of his movies within an hour of where I am right now.
What?
And yeah, he films all his movies in the Philadelphia area, or in like either the Philadelphia area or like the a couple of like I'm blanking on the names. The ones that are out in rural, or like Lancaster. If you've heard of Lancaster, that's where all the Amish people are. That they're famous for their very big Amish communities.
Yeah.
So he's either filming around here or in out there, which is an hour and a half away. And like the idea of making something, putting it out, and then literally just taking the money you made from that and making the next thing, I think is the dream of any creative, because it's really just the purest way you can get your ideas out there.
Without a single doubt. Now we're approaching the end of it, which is a damn travesty, because there are 1,000 more ways I can keep going about this, but I did want to end off on what your favorite director was and like directing style, because like, I mean, that is a loaded question for any person that like really likes movies.
Yeah, no, you can see my mouth just fell open for a second as I thought. One that I really like, I don't know, do you know Guy Ritchie? He's a British film director. I love gangster movies. I love the way that there's a Tarantino element to it. I don't let some people think, he's just trying to be Quentin Tarantino. I don't have that opinion. No. But there are certain shared elements, but I think he's my favorite. The way it's just crass, it's in your face. Snatch is one of my favorite movies ever.
I had it in my head, man. It's like you were reading my mind.
Yeah, Snatch is one of my favorite movies ever. And I even love his movies that I just like it's almost like it's about being cool, his movies. Like there's not like there's not always, sometimes there is. I mean, Snatch is an incredible movie. That is one that, I would put up against any movie. But some of his movies, like the spy movie, Uncle something. The Man from Uncle.
The Man from Uncle.
That's not the greatest movie in the world, but it's so cool. It's a weird way to describe it, but it's just the characters are all cool and suave. And there was The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey that came out just a couple years ago. That was I love that so much.
And what he does really well is that he even makes the idiot character seem cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything is just, and I think being Americans, there is that element of like British people. Like there is some sort of attraction there. So I'm sure that helps. But yeah, and his Sherlock Holmes movies I love. So yeah, I think it's a tough one. There are a couple other ones. I love the Coen Brothers. I love Paul Thomas Anderson, but I'd say probably Guy Ritchie. Just for whatever reason, those movies I can watch over and over again.
All right, now to cap it off then, because Snatch is one of my favorite movies too. What is your favorite scene in that movie?
That's a good one. I love. I mean, the lineup itself is incredible.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, no, not the
cast.
Yeah, but when they go to buy the trailer the first time, I think it's the first time you meet Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
And you just can't understand a damn word that he's saying. I mean, that character is so incredible. He's so amazing. And I think that's probably it. My dad literally just walks around saying that. I mean, he probably hasn't seen the movie. Yeah, it's so incredible. The acting, the complete befuddlement on Jason Statham's, and I'm blanking on the other guy's real name, Tommy in the movie.
Yeah. Tommy, what you holding that for?
Yeah,
it's a gun.
that I think that takes the cake for me. But it's probably that, or when they're in the when it's the two guys with the dog, and the two black guys and the dog, God. And the guy walks in to get the diamond back. I'm blanking on all their names there, but yeah, those are probably my favorite.
Oh my God, yeah. Like the first time you see Brad Pitt fight, and he's like getting his ass beat, he's just like stretching, and then he lays that one hit, pop, and like the guy just like dies. It is the most phenomenal scene ever.
That's what I mean. I mean, it's just so cool. It's like, it's such a simple way to describe it, but it's just cool as shit. I can't get enough of that one.
Or like I would say my favorite scene is when they're talking about the guys come in to rob Vince or Vinny. And the guys are like, oh, let me get this right. So you smelled some pussy around, and you two dicks and balls thought that you were gonna have, but there's no pussy here. It's like, I know, because on the side of your shit says replica, and on mine it says 40.
Yeah, and it does the crazy spin into the gun. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, and that's the camera trickery with those movies. The Sherlock Holmes movies, like the slow motion when they go into the fight. I don't know if you've seen those.
The Phantom camera.
Yeah,
the whole documentary on just that.
And he like slow, he has Sherlock Holmes like narrated in normal time, Robert Downey Jr., as, it really gives the impression that his brain is working, 1,000,000 miles per hour faster than the rest of us. I just think that's so badass.
Oh my God. Just with everything, I mean, the whole reason I do this podcast is because like I feel like all these like little things about a creative are what makes a creative. When you talk to Quentin Tarantino, and he like, it seems like he just drank 4 cups of coffee and did like 4 lines of coke. It's like, that's why his movies are like that.
Yeah.
So like, I really hope that like people listening, you need to watch this fucking thing. Thief Among Us. I don't know why I put a in there. Yeah.
No, it's easy. It's natural.
Baldy and Fatman Productions. Google the shit. Watch the fucking film. I'm telling you, it's worth it. Funny as fuck.
It is. I'm telling you. You'll enjoy it. I promise. If you give it a chance, you'll enjoy it. It's worth it. I promise.
Now, to cap it off, where can people find you? Instagram, website, for the people listening and like aren't gonna see the banners I'm gonna put up for the YouTube video.
Yeah, absolutely. My Instagram is at MCWNate. That's probably why you thought that was how you spell my last name. MCWNate's my Instagram. I believe that's my Twitter too. I don't post much on Twitter. Instagram, I'm getting better at posting. Biggest thing would definitely, and then at Tyler Leidy is my partner. And it's Leidy for Leidy. I spell that wrong every time. But biggest thing, at BATFM production on Instagram, and subscribe to the YouTube, but check the movie out. I mean, if you check the movie out, you'll want to follow along to the next thing, I promise.
I'm telling you, the highest watermark for a comedy is that you're actually able to sit back and like think about the comedies, right? Mm-hmm. You think back on Step Brothers, you think about that ball scene, and he's putting on the drum set. You crack up just thinking about it. I'm telling you, this movie has the same elements And the fact that I'm talking to the person that made it is blowing my mind all the way open right now.
It's much appreciated.
Phenomenal fucking recording. Thanks again, Nate, for coming on. This is the end of the podcast. AR Tales, aka the ART podcast. I've been AR. This has been Nate. Make sure to check this man's shit out and give some love to Fatman too, to Tyler. Do what you gotta do. All right.
Absolutely.
And this is the wrap. Check with us next Monday for the continuation of October, month of the homies. Peace out.